Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Mr. Umar Abdullah PhD as our lecturer. Let us introduce our group first. We are from group 3 of PBI2. My name is Mirza Pagarayu and my friends are Aprilianti, Desi Dwi Mas Julianti, Fitri Rahmasari, Melanium, and Merlinda. Okay, today we want to discuss about teacher-student relationship. The first presentation will be presented by Merlinda.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Merlinda. I will present about teacher-student relationship. If a teacher has a good relationship with students, then students more readily accept the rules and procedures and the disciplinary actions that follow their violations. Then, the extremely large effect size for the middle school or junior high level and the upper elementary level. Note that data were not available to compute an average effect size for the primary level. And then teacher-student relationship would be extremely important to students below the high school level and therefore would have a profound impact on students' behavior. These studies identify characteristics of teachers such as considerations, buoyancy, patience, and the like. Robles and his colleagues identify two dimensions whose interactions define the relationship between teacher and students. One dimension is dominance versus submission. The other is cooperation versus opposition. Okay, first is high dominance. High dominance is characterized by clarity of purpose and strong guidance. And the second is high submission. High submission is characterized by lack of clarity and purpose. And then high cooperation. High cooperation is characterized by a concern for the needs and opinions of others and a desire to function as a member of a team as opposed to an individual. And the last is high opposition. High opposition is characterized by active antagonism toward others and a desire to thwart their goals and desires. It is the right combination of moderate to high dominance and moderate to high cooperation that provides the optimal teacher-student relationship for learning. And then, Robles and his colleagues, 1999, note briefly, teachers should be effective instructors and lecturers, as well as friendly, helpful, and congenial. They should be able to empathize with students, understand their work, and listen to them. Good teachers are not uncertain, undecided, or confusing in the way they communicate with students. They are not grousy, gloomy, dissatisfied, aggressive, sarcastic, or quick-tempered. They should be able to set standards and maintain control while still allowing students responsibility and freedom to learn. And then research from Lian Chu and Michael Tolley, 1997. The students were presented with 4 options in terms of their preferences for the management style of teacher. First, rules or rewards, punishment, and then relationship listening. And then the third is confronting, contracting, and the last, no preferred approach. Wobbles and his colleagues 1999 note the data in Figure 3 confirms students' clear preference for the confronting, contracting style. The percentage of students who prefer the confronting, contracting approach is at least double that for any other approach. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Desi Dwimas Julianti. Now I will continue our presentation. It's about teacher-student relationship. There are some categories of severe problem facing students, such as homeless, depression, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, suicide, eating disorder, violent student, and so on. For the first, homeless. According to National Center on Homelessness and Poverty in Crespi, 2001, on any given night, 700 people are homeless and 2 million people are homeless annually. The second, depression. According to US Department of Health and Human Services, in 1991 in Stan North, 8% of all adolescents are depressed in any given year. The third, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. 3 to 7% of school-age children, mostly males, experience attention deficit and hyperactive disorder. The fourth, suicide. According to Center for Disease Control in 2000, suicide is responsible for death than any disease and for 10 to 14 years old. Suicide is the fourth leading cause of the death. The fifth, eating disorder. According to Krago in 1996, 50 to 80% of high school students manifest bulimic symptoms. And the sixth, violent students. According to Center for Disease Control in 1992, more than 40% of all boys and 25% of all girls report that they have been physically isolated in school. Next, there are other categories of severe problem facing students. There are alcoholism. According to Johnson in 2001, alcohol is a significant factor in approximately. Next, sexual and physical abuse. In 1993, 15.7 million children were reported as maltreated. And then next, incarcerated parents. 1.5 million children had an incarcerated parent. And the last is poverty. Approximately 15.7 million children live in households with income below the poverty line. And then, the important areas to communication. There are two important areas to communication. For the first one is exhibiting assertive behavior, and the second, establishing clear learning goals. For the first one, exhibiting assertive behavior is the ability to stand up for one's legitimate right in ways that make it less likely that the other will ignore or circumvent. Okay, there are three categories of exhibiting assertive behavior. For the first one, use of assertive body language. For the example, making and keeping contact. And the second, use of appropriate tone of voice. For the example, speaking clearly. And the last is persisting until the appropriate behavior is displayed. For the example, arguing and blaming. Okay, I think that's all for me. And next presentation will be presented by Millennium.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Millennium. Now I'm going to discuss about the first one is the establishing clean learning goals. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So what it means by establishing learning goals? Okay, it is a second way to exhibit proper level of dominance is to be very clear about the learning goals that are to be addressed in a unit, a quarter, or a semester. So, establishing learning goals, it's very important for teacher because it is a way to exhibit the proper of the student. And then what goal that will we make in our class in the learning and teaching process. And then for time, for example, in a quarter semester, what will we do? Or in a semester, in a one semester, what material will we teach? That called establishing learning goals. Okay, we go. Here are some. Okay, the first one, establishing learning goals at the beginning of a unit of instruction. So it could be in the beginning of a unit instruction. So, and then establishing learning goals, it must be providing feedback on those goals. And then the third one is continually and systematically revisiting the goals. So it will be continually. We will get the same goals with the same material. Number 4, providing summative feedback regarding the goals. Okay, we go to the next slide. Okay, there is an example here. There is rubric. Why rubric is the I make it here because rubric is to easier us to get the goal of our learning and teaching process. Why? Because rubric is a guide for learning facilitators to make consistent and accountable assessment of the quality of student work. So it a facilitator to make consistent and accountable assessment of the quality of our student. And also the rubric help the facilitator to give a more objective assessment in accordance with learning outcome. We go to the next. Here are the example. For example, we want to make a rubric about speaking skill. So our point, the point of our assessment is the fluency of the student, their pronunciation, their accuracy, their clarity, and performance skill. And then you can see here there is some criteria 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then speaking with many pauses, do they do it? And then speaking too slowly, and then speaking generally at normal speed, speaking fluently. So we can decide their score by using this rubric like that, and so on. Okay, we go next. Okay, here are action steps. Action step is use specific behavior that communicate the appropriate level of cooperation. At least for specific type of behavior communicate the appropriate level of cooperation. So, they are divided into some. The first one is provide flexible learning goals. Yeah, it must be flexible for the student and also for the teachers. And then the second one, it take personal interest in student. Yeah, we have to make sure that we have to interest our student first about the material. And then third one, use fair and positive learning behavior. Yeah, it's also important. And the last one is respond appropriately to student wrong response. Yeah, if they are wrong, we may not judge them, but we show them what is the right way, like that. And then the last one is providing flexible learning goals. And then what is it? The previous discussion explained how to set clear learning goals, communicating the right level of dominance. Sorry. Okay, what it mean? For example, to make us more understand about it, allowing students to set some of their own learning goals. So we give them chance to we allow them to set some of their own learning goal at the beginning of the unit or ask students what they want to learn, convey a sense of cooperation. So this is not only has the potential to increase student interest in the topic, but also you convey a message concerned with their interest and make an effort to include that interest in your teaching. Okay, I think that's all of my material. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aprilianti and I'm from Group 3. Let's continue to my presentation. Taking a personal interest in students. For some students, the need for the teacher to show some personal interest in them is paramount to their learning. It means they will feel spirit if the teacher take notice to them. So let's take a look for some behavior that reflect taking a personal interest in student. Number one, talking to the student. We can talk teacher can talking informally with students before, during, and after class about their interests or their hobby or private life, something like that. And then next, greeting students outside of school. Maybe we by accident or without accident uh, met the teacher on the met the student. On the store or in the market. We can greeting them, so they will realize that uh, you know about them. You take notice to them. Okay, next is singling out a few students each day, maybe in the lunchroom or some other rooms, and talking to them. Uh, and next is being aware and commenting. Being aware of and commenting on important events in student lives. For example, they are participate in contest or participate in race. We can ask what's the progress, how about the contest, something like that. Okay, next is complementing student. When the student receive achievement in outside school, we can complimenting to them and say congratulations, like good job, congratulations.
for you. It means that, like I said before, it make them realize that you are know about them. Okay, next is meeting student at the door. Meeting student at the door as they come into class and saying hello to each student. For example, before you and the student come to the enter the classroom, uh, it happen when the beginning of the classroom. I mean, yeah, like first schedule. I mean, you can make a line in front of the classroom, and each student one by one come to you, and we can greeting each other, and then come to the and then they will enter the classroom. It's something I do when I was in elementary school. Okay, we move to the next topic. You know, an effective program at fostering effective teacher-student relationships is TESA, TESA, or teacher. TESA or teacher expectation student achievement. Is in here, teachers learn interaction design to encourage equitable interaction with all students. So let's take a look at some behaviors that reflect using equitable and positive classroom behaviors. Okay, number one is making eye contact with each student. While you are explaining your material, you can do scanning the entire room. And then number two, deliberately moving toward and being close to each student. When okay, we can do making eye contact and moving toward a student. Make sure that you don't do this for some just for some student, like making eye contact for ABC but DEF not, like something like that. If something happen, DEF will be jealous to ABC. And make sure that when you moving toward to student, uh, the setting arrangement allow you and the student clear and easy access to move around the room. Okay, next, attributing the ownership of ideas to the student who initiated them. Example, your student, we are in discussion forum, and your student have a good idea, so we want to adopt this idea. We can say like as Siska said before, or the Siska has just added Dennis idea by saying blank 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 blank. Okay, next is allowing and encouraging all students to be part of class discussion and interaction. We know that when we do, as maybe know, when we do discussion section, not all of the students participate in the discussion. Sometimes just clever students sometimes join the discussion. So what should we do is making sure to call on students who do not commonly participate, not just students who respond most frequently. Okay, now the last is providing appropriate free time for all students. Uh, I mean, like in the previous uh, discussion or performance, we evaluate them. We evaluation the the their performance on our perception of their abilities. What is the what is strengths? I mean, and their weakness. So they will be improve their ability, and who are never respond for the discussion will be interested to join the discussion. Okay, let's move to the next topic. Responding appropriately to student incorrect responses. It's related to question and answer section. The manner in which uh, we respond to a student's incorrect response or lack res- of response conveys a strong message to students. So what should we do is show behaviors some behaviors to establish uh, a relationship that enhance or detracts from student learning. So let's take a look for that behavior. Okay, when when student mention the when student mention incorrect response, we emphasizing what was right, giving credit to the aspect of incorrect response that are correct, and acknowledging when the student is headed in the right direction, identifying the question that the correct response answer. And next is encouraging collaboration. We know that some students, we know that as maybe know, students have different abilities, so we allow them to collaboration with their chairmate, maybe allowing them to seek help from their chairmate or their friends. This can result in better responses and can enhance learning. Next is restating the question. Asking the question a second time and allowing time for students to think before you expect a response. Giving their time before their response to make a better to make a better responses. Next is rephrasing the question. Paraphrasing the question or asking it from a different perspective. For example, they mention their statement, and then if it's incorrect, we can ask another student to make to mention their statement about the topic. So uh, they will they they will receive a better understanding of the question. Next is giving hints or cues, providing enough guidance so that students gradually come up with the answer. And then providing the answer and asking for elaboration. If student cannot answer the question, We can give the answer to them, but we ask them to mention the answer again, but in their perspective, in their words, and in another example of the answer. So the last is respecting the student's option to pass when appropriate. So that's all my presentation. Thank you, and the next presentation will be presented by Fitri Rahmasari. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fitri Rahmasari. Okay, today I will continue the explanation. Action step 3. Be aware of the needs of different types of students. Okay, in this part, there is 5 categories of high needs students that have been identified by Jerry Brophy 1996 and by Brenda Freeman 1994. The first one is passive and the second one is aggressive. The third one is attention problems. The fourth is perfectionist and the last is socially inept. Today I will explain about passive and aggressive. The first one is passive. The category of passive is divided into 2 subcategories. For the first one is fear of relationships and the second one is fear of failure. Although fear is the common denominator in both subcategories, the object of the fear is different. For fear of relationships, there are some students in the passive category may be victims of neglect and abuse that is physical or verbal in nature. So that is make the students depressed and they become social phobias. And for the fear of failure, there is other students in the passive category may suffer from a deeply ingrained belief that they don't have the requisite skills to succeed in school. It means same as the student that have insecurity. Okay, next is aggressive. The category of aggressive student divided into 3 subcategories. There are hostile, oppositional, and covert. These categories closely correspond to diagnosis in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, or DSM. So the first one is aggressive hostile. This subcategory is closely related to the clinical diagnosis of conduct disorder in the DSM. Characteristics of conduct disorder are poor anger control, poor impulse control, low capacity for empathy, a heightened sense of entitlement. It means it like the world owes me, and then inability to see the consequences of one's actions, low self-esteem. It means the students may not be able to admit it to themselves, and then propensity for thrill-seeking behavior and a propensity to align with deviant peer groups and criminal behavior. Hostile students tend to give teachers and schools the most difficulty, take up much classroom time, and require schools and districts to provide added resources in terms of time, energy, and actual dollars to address the problems they create. Okay, next is aggressive oppositional. This subcategory closely relates to the oppositional deviant classification in the DSM. Typical characteristics of these students include consistent resistance to following rules, arguing with adults, frequent use of harsh, angry language, and a propensity to criticize, blame, and annoy others. And the last is aggressive covert. The subcategory of covert student doesn't have an identifiable DSM diagnosis, but these students are easily recognizable to most teachers. To most teachers, they may be quiet, pleasant, and even charming at times. And consequently, they avoid punishment and the necessary attention to their behavior. Okay, I think that's all from my explanation today. Thanks for your great attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, next presenter, it's me, Mifza Pagarayu. Now, I want to present about attention problems. The category of attention problems contains two subcategories. There are hyperactive and then inattentive. Both of them closely correspond to specific DSM diagnosis. For hyperactive, there are attention deficit or hyperactive disorder, and then predominantly hyperactive impulsive type. For inattentive, there are attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder, and then predominantly inattentive type. Okay, next, the characteristics of them. For hyperactive, there are include poor impulse control, inability to stay seated or work quietly, propensity to blurt out question and answer, trouble taking turns, and then propensity to interrupt others. For example, in class, David never seems to stop talking, moving, fidgeting, and telling jokes. He distracts others and rarely turns in his homework. His breaks are well below his capabilities. He is quite likable at times, but generally wastes a lot of class time with his antics. His parents refuse to help him with medications or therapy, leaving the teacher, Miss Painter, with little outside help. After a number of attempts to gain David's attention, Miss Painter has the following conversation with him. Mr. Painter: David, you seem to have real trouble sitting still. Would you agree with that? David: I hate school. It's boring. Miss Painter: I know you sometimes have trouble concentrating. I'd like to suggest some things that will help you focus better. I'd like to spend some time helping you organize your assignments and write out how to do each project step by step, so that in the future You can follow these steps. Let's also put you in a different place in the room so you have less to distract you. The first thing Miss Painter does is to move David to a place in the class where it is easy for her to attend to David and for David to be more involved in what she is doing. For each major assignment, Miss Painter takes time to help David organize and prioritize what he will to do complete this assignment. Miss Painter and David keep meeting to discuss his progress. And then the second is for inattentive. There are include failing to give close attention to details, rarely appearing to listen, having difficulty organizing tasks, forgetfulness in daily activities, and then being easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. For example, Kathy is a quiet adolescent who gets very frustrated when she can't do her schoolwork. She believes she is stupid and is becoming apathetic. After repeated failures, she has developed the habit of procrastinating. When she realizes her assignments are going to be late, she gets upset and turns in half-completed projects. She is thinking about dropping out of school and getting a job. Her parents are opposed to medication and therapy. When things look like they couldn't get much worse, Mr. Muger sets up a meeting with Kathy. Mr. Muger: Kathy, it seems to one that you are very frustrated and upset with school and with yourself. What's going on with you? Kathy: I've tried for all this year and I can't stand it anymore. I'm so ridiculously stupid. Mr. Muger: I wish someone would help you sooner. Has anyone ever given you tips about how to do better in school? Kathy: Not really. Mostly I was told to try harder, but I don't know what that means. I try hard now. Mr. Muger provides Kathy with some concrete suggestions about how to study. He buys a book for Kathy on study skills. They meet periodically and go over some of the suggestions in the book together. They even brainstorm some ideas about things Kathy can do when she gets confused or gets lost in the fog, as Kathy will say. Next, perfectionists. The category of perfectionists are closely corresponds to the DSM diagnosis of obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. Perfectionist students, driven to succeed at the level that are close to, if not unattainable. The second, often self-critical. The third is have deep-seated feelings of inferiority, and then vulnerability, and then the last is often low self-esteem. They see being perfect as the only way to gain love, respect, and then attention. At some level, they believe they are liked or loved for what they can produce, not who they are. When confronted with a situation in which they feel they cannot produce exceptional results. They may give up altogether, procrastinate, or make up excuses why they can't perform the task. Okay, next, socially inept. The children who socially inept have six. The first is difficulty making and keeping friends. The second is tend to close and touch others in annoying ways. The third is don't seem to fit in, and then make stupid or embarrassing remarks, and then the last is talk too much. They are often well-meaning students. They are often well-meaning students who are trying too hard to relate to others, and then baffled by the animosity others show them. The children often feel sad, confused, different from others, and then have difficulty following complex sequence of events. Their behavior is often labeled as tactlessness, insensitivity, and then immaturity. We think that's all about our presentation. We are so sorry if we have many mistakes. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.